And right now we celebrating the 70 years of Mr. Hiram Clarke coming out here, bringing electricity out here to this community so it could be a community. Everybody, we on the corner of Hiram Clarke and South Main. Now South Main really is called Highway 90. And like I say, before we had freeways, we had highways. And we seen Highway 518, which was colored, and we also seen Highway 521, which was Alameda, which eventually turned into Highway 288. And Highway 90 there, it eventually turned into Highway 59. Okay, for some of you young people that didn't understand what was going on before they built freeways, okay, those was the highway that get you in and out of Houston. All right, but today we celebrate Mr. Hiram Clarke 70 years since he came out here and developed this land. And along with him, you had such great people as Mr. George McLendon. Let's go see what Mr. McLendon did. And what Mr. McLendon did when this community started getting developed, he came out here and organized a triple drive-in theater that was long called McLendon Triple Drive-In Theater. In case you want to know, Mr. Gordon McLendon owned two of the largest radio stations in the state of Texas. He had the #1 radio station here in Houston for years. It was called the Big 610, KILT. And his #1 station, other than KILT, was in Dallas. It was called KLIF. And Mr. Gordon McLendon came out here, and this is still part of the property of the McLendon family. They did not sell this property. That's why they got it as a resort for RVs. All right, we're right up here on the corner of Highway 90 and Hiram Clarke. And we celebrating 70 years since Mr. Hiram Clarke came out here and developed this power center to bring electricity for the people out here in Hiram Clarke when they first started building this subdivision in the 1960s. But Houston had annexed this back in the 1950s because they wanted this to be part of a all-white community that worked in the medical center. And as you can see, those are the power lines that Mr. Hiram Clarke helped develop so that they could get electricity out here in Hiram Clarke. And as you can see, some of the people who invested out here in Hiram Clarke was such people as Mr. Weingarten, Mr. McLendon, who you seen had the triple drive-in theater, and also you had other people invested in out here in Hiram Clarke, such as the Belden family. But the biggest part of it was Mr. Hiram Clarke coming out here, Mr. Hiram Clarke coming out here to develop this power center for electricity so that they could have electricity out here. And when they first built this, it was built for whites only. And the whites that was built for was the whites that worked in the medical center. And what we traveling right now was nothing but a pasture just like that. But this is the pasture that Mr. Hiram Clarke used to always use when he came out here to go to work. That's why when they developed this land and developed this community, they named the street after him. And Mr. Hiram Clarke also developed this electricity out here so that they can have power out here. And the city had already annexed this from Harris County in the early 1950s, like in 56. That's why it was, the cutoff line was Holmes Road. They wanted this community to be like Maryland, but for whites only, just like Maryland was mostly Jews. Okay, they wanted the whites to stay out here who worked in the medical center. And one of the major streets out here was Fuquay. But Orem was a major street, but it wasn't the main street of the business section of Hiram Clarke. Fuquay was the business section of Hiram Clarke. When they came out here and developed this land around 62, 63, and they started selling homes around 63 and 64, they were selling them to whites only. This is the only place where white folks burn crosses in black folks' yards. That's right. Because see, in South Park, they didn't have to burn crosses out there in South Park because most of the white people had already stayed out there for 30 years. So their kids was grown. But when they built this, it was during the same time that they had what they called the civil rights. Civil rights mean that they couldn't discriminate against blacks, that they had to sell it. And that's what made the whites so mad out here in Hiram, Clarke, because they never got a chance to raise their kids up out here before blacks started moving in here. That's why they used to burn down crosses out here in this community in Hiram, Clarke. And right up here was a major spot of Hiram, Clarke in West Orem. And right over there used to be a rice food market that Mr. Levy invested out here. Right there on that corner of Hiram, Clarke, and Orem was a rice food market that was owned by Mr. Levy, who is the in-laws of the Levitts. And as we continue to ride down here and show you why the white people was burning crosses out here in the black people's yard. See, they didn't do that out there in South Park because the white people in South Park had already raised their kids. So they didn't have to worry about their kids because their kids was grown. But when they built this community out here in '63, this was a brand new community. And they was expected to live out here at least 30 years to raise their kids. But the Civil Rights Bill came out here where they couldn't discriminate no more. And that's what made the white people angry. And some of the white people who lived out here came from South Park. So they was already upset because the blacks had moved them out of South Park and they came out here in this new developed area and the blacks are coming over here. That's the reason why they was burning the crosses down in some of these black folks' yard who came out here in the '60s. But in the '70s, blacks was beginning to come out here. And most of the blacks that was coming out here was blacks that was raised up in 3rd Ward. They were coming out here and buying new homes. The homes wasn't new. It wasn't brand new. The homes were at least 5 or 6 years old. And right here, and one thing you could always compare this out here, which is Hiram, Clarke, Sunnyside, and South Park, it's always got Sims Bayou. And that's Sims Bayou that we're crossing over right now. That's the same Sims Bayou that goes all the way out to Sunnyside and South Park. That lets you know. As we go down the business section of Hiram, Clarke, the main business section street was called Fuquay. And Fuquay is where a business part of Hiram, Clarke. So where the people in Hiram, Clarke didn't have to worry about going to the shopping mall or everything was out here for them. Thanks to Mr. Joe Weingarten and the Weingarten Realty. Let's see. Show you what I'm talking about. What do that sign say? Weingarten Realty. Let's just stop and show you. What do that sign say? Weingarten Realty. And the Weingarten family came out here and made a shopping center for these people, which was all whites. And then later on, when blacks started moving out here, Weingarten, all of this was Weingarten property. That's the reason why you see New Faith right today was sitting on Weingarten Realty. Some history for some of you ones that go to New Faith. Yes, that's Weingarten Realty property. Now, whether or not Fuquay, New Faith bought the property, I can't tell you. Whether or not Weingarten sold it to them, that I can't tell you. It ain't my business. As we go down Fuquay, and when they came out here, when I say they, the medical center, because they wanted their employees to be close to work. And those are white employees only that was moving out here in Hiram, Clarke when they first developed this area. It was for whites only. And some of the key people who came out here, like I told you, was Mr. Weingarten. Like I say, that property, as you can see, that shopping center and New Faith is hooked on to the same property. That's the Weingarten Realty Company. Because some of you need to know that. Now, whether or not New Faith bought that from Weingarten or whether or not Weingarten want to sell it to them, There wasn't no idea of New Faith not having the money, because New Faith could have bought it, but did the wine garden want to sell it to them? And we will see. That's not our business. We're here to talk about the history of Harlem Clarke, because it was such a valuable place that the whites did not want to leave out of this area to give it to blacks, because they never got a chance to enjoy their homes before the Civil Rights Bill came out and blacks started moving in this area. But as you can see, there's New Faith. And as you can see, the shopping center is hooked on to New Faith. Now, whether, like I say, whether or not Wine Garden them sold them that property, I'm not sure if they wanted it in Wine Garden. They are the kind of Jewish people that they don't discriminate. So if they wanted to buy the property, I'm not sure the Wine Garden people would sell it to them. But nevertheless, we're talking about the history. And the history of Harlem Clarke is to make sure that Harlem Clarke ran all the way down to Anderson Road. That was the dead end of Harlem Clarke when they first developed this area. Because when they first developed this land out here and this subdivision, it ran north and south to Anderson Road. And it ran east and west from Posto to Alameda Road, which was 521. That's why it was part of Harris County. And it was also part of Alameda, Texas. And as we go over here to Anderson Road, this was the cutoff. And they added all this on. These homes got added on later to the community of Harlem Clarke. Even the houses in the community that's over there on the Post Oak side of Harlem Clarke was added on. But when they first came out here, this was the original and this was the cutoff line. Because right on the other side of Anderson Road was part of Alameda, Texas. And if you go down Anderson Road to the left, you will go down to 521, which is Alameda that we know. And right here was the cutoff line. That's why you can see right there. Look at the houses. Look at that. You don't see no homes over here. Not like you see over there. No. Because this was the cutoff line of Harlem Clarke. Harlem Clarke didn't go no further than this area. That's why you look at on the other side of Anderson Road, what you see? Trailer houses. Don't take my word. There it is, Center Point. And they named it after Mr. Clarke. That's right, Mr. Hiram Clarke. The H is for Hiram, and his O is his middle name. But as you can see, they named this after him to show how much that they appreciate what he did in putting this community together to make sure that they have energy out here to be able to live. Some good history. H-O. The H stands for Hiram. I don't know what the middle name is, but that's his name. Right there they designed it, H.O. Clarke Service Center. Mr. Hiram Clarke designed. All of this that you see, these power center, energy towers, electric power, all of these towers were designed by Mr. Hiram Clarke. That's why when they developed this land and opening up this community, they named it after him. Because without what he done here, this community wouldn't have existed. Mr. Hiram Clarke. And for some people who had been living out here a long time, they remember seeing a bunch of horses out here and cows. Okay, CenterPoint Energy, which was once Houston Light and Power Company, they let him and his family use all of that land for their cows and horses. So when you used to live out here in the early 70s and in the early 80s, you remember seeing horses and cows out here? Well, that belongs to the Clarke family. Houston Lightning Power Company owned the property, and they let him use that land to do whatever he wanted to do when he retired from Houston Lightning Power Company. That's Mr. Hiram Clarke, who was the vice president of Houston Lightning Power Company. He was the one who came out here and developed this power center out here for the draw electricity for all the people out here in Hiram Clarke. That's why when Kirby John built the Windsor Village Church, and up there on that corner of Post Oak and South Main, they named that the Power Center. Well, the Power Center name come from out here, on Mr. Hiram Clarke. Some good real history.